name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Meanjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hi, it's Mark here. This episode contains discussions about suicide and mental health. If this topic is distressing for you, please consider skipping this episode or listening with someone you trust. Support is available. In Australia, you can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 at any time. If you're listening from another country, please reach out to a local crisis service or mental health support line in your area. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the podcast. Mark on a solo recording today. Luke and Ryan unfortunately couldn't make this recording with our guest. So, as most of you will know, when the other co-hosts are away, there's normally a reason why, which may be true or not. And the reason the boys are away today is that time of recording being the 10th of December, 2025. This will probably be actually released in 2026, but time of recording, 10th of December, which is actually, side note, Mum's birthday. So happy birthday, Mum, when you're listening to this in the future. Hope you had a wonderful day. But the 10th of December worldwide is actually Dewey Decimal System Day. It's a quirky nod to libraries, books, and organizations around the world. And what it actually is, I had to actually look this up because I didn't really know the exact definition. The Dewey Decimal System, it's the library classification system created by Melvin Dewey in 1876, organized non-fiction books by subject, using numbers to group similar topics together. So that's where the boys are today. They are at a local library celebrating Dewey Decimal System Day and, I don't know, organising books or whatever they're doing there. So that's the reason they're not here. Let's jump into the clues where our guest is from today. 3 clues for you as always. Play along at home. Clue number 1, this place has the world's largest cross-country ski trails with over 200 kilometres of groomed trails. That's your first clue. Pause the podcast now if you'd like to guess where our guest is from. Clue number 2, this place is the largest apple-producing region in the world outside of China and exports to dozens of other countries. Third and final clue, if you haven't guessed yet, the place that we're in, or our guest is from today, has the world's first geoduck farm. Sorry, not geoduck, geoduck. It's the world's largest, I was just saying it how it is actually spelled, but geoduck, it's the world's largest burrowing clam, a delicacy in Asia, and is exported globally. But we are not in Asia. If you haven't guessed, we're actually in Washington State, specifically the city of Everett. The clues that I gave you, Metho Valley in central Washington is where the world's largest cross-country ski trails are. Washington produces over 70% of US apples, and from Puget Sound is where the geoduck, the largest burrowing clam, is where the farm is. So Everett as a city is a coastal city in Washington State, known globally for housing the Boeing assembly plant, which I believe we've given that clue before to other guests from Washington. It's the largest building by volume in the world and a cornerstone of the aerospace industry. Today's guest is a former personal assistant to high-profile families in Seattle, now doing full-time content creation. She shares life with her fiance Garrett and their 2 boys, Ezra and Emery. True creative at heart, she loves reading, traveling, coffee dates, refinishing furniture, and antique hunting. She's also a lifelong vinyl collector, starting at age 9 with her grandpa's records, and now owns over 1,000. Wow. And while you might not have guessed it, in Chile, Washington. She is covered in tattoos also. So our guest today from Everett in Washington is Logan Porter. So welcome to the Remembering Them podcast officially, Logan. Thank you very much for joining us all the way over from Washington.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me to share in the space.
Yeah, opposite seasons over there. It's obviously chilly, but yeah, completely opposite over here. You'd probably you'll hear in the intro back. You've got quite a few tattoos, and you'd probably be able to show them in the hot Australian summer. So it's, yeah, thank you for joining us and working out that time difference.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to.
If you'd like to jump straight in, Logan, and tell us who we'll be remembering today, who we're talking about, and their relationship to you, and what happened to them.
Yeah, of course. So today we'll be talking about Eric. He is my late husband. He passed in 2019, February of 2019. So we're coming up on the 6 year anniversary after the new year. Um, yeah, and Eric and I were married for 3 years, together for five, and we share a little boy, Ezra. He's he's now a not so little boy. He's 9.5, almost 10 years old. So time just flies.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and I think that's a common theme. We speak to anyone, that has experienced grief, whether it's 6 months or 6 years or 16 years. Time really does go quite quickly. What
Yeah.
happened to Eric?
So Eric was in the army and had separated shortly before his passing, but he had kind of had um, a traumatic childhood upbringing. He was in and out of the foster care system. And then he kind of like sought a familial structure by joining the United States Army, just having that like camaraderie and sense of family he was really looking for. Whenever he separated from the service, he kind of really struggled with his identity and went back to some of the childhood traumas that he experienced. And his mental health just really started rapidly declining. So in February of 2019, he made the choice to end his life. Yeah.
And what was that time like? How did you find out? And I suppose, yeah, the story and the background of what happened on that date.
Yeah. So, obviously it's hard. I think anytime that someone struggles with their mental health, but especially whenever there's children involved, just because it can create just not such a wonderful environment for them. And so Ezra was almost 3 the week of Eric's passing, and I'd spent the better part of, the 3 years that we'd had Ezra together, but before that too, really trying to help support Eric in getting the mental health support that he needed. And he was very resistant. And I don't know if that was, I think it was a combination of like just that experience that he had as a child with mental health providers while he was in and out of the foster care system, um, or if it was also just a part of like his military army facade of like needing to be the pinnacle of strength, and like getting help was weakness, which is completely a false narrative. But regardless, no matter like how much I pushed, he really kind of rejected that. And so as things had been declining, it just got to a point that it was really not a safe environment for a young child anymore. And so it was November of 2018 that I kind of like gave him an ultimatum of like, hey, I want you to get better because I want you to be a good dad and like have our family be healthy and wonderful. But I just can't continue doing this because it's coming at Ezra's expense and my expense too. And so we separated, and Eric really kind of actually doubled down and took it a step further and was like, well, if you're leaving me, we might as well just get a divorce. And so we'd kind of like dabbled in the initial steps of looking at what a divorce looked like. of course, as soon as he said it, he tried to take it back, but that was kind of like his thing. I think because he had felt so like abandoned as a child in and out of the foster system, and his biological parents essentially failing him. Um, he was always trying to test people, like how much can I push? When will you give up on me? To kind of like fulfill that prophecy that he already had in his head. Um, and so I I moved about like an hour and a half north to stay with my parents. I got permission to take Ezra and do all of that. And although there was like the talk of divorce in the air, it really was like the intention behind it was like, yeah, I've tried to help you as much as I can. And like at this point, you need to have the motivation to help yourself, maybe some distance from Ezra and I, and like familial life pressures or me nagging at you to get help or stop certain tendencies. Like maybe that'll be the pusher. Um, and instead it kind of pushed him in the opposite direction. He just continued to spiral. I don't think I knew how bad it was because I was really focused on um, like what this big change looked like in my life and Ezra's life and getting Ezra adjusted and all of that stuff. Like it didn't seem like that much time had passed since Eric and I had really like checked in, but I think that he had just like really gone to a very like isolated and dark space. So the morning of February 11th, we actually, it's so funny. We are talking about the weather here, but we always get like delayed snow in Washington. We always get a little bit of snow, but it's like never when you want it on Christmas Day. And so we had people like locals here refer to it as Snowmageddon because it was like just a snow that came out of nowhere the second week of February and just like stopped everyone in the state from being able to do anything. Um, so it was a really heavy snow, and I just moved in with my parents. So we got a lot of snow up there, but Eric got a lot of snow in Olympia too, which is about an hour away. And I guess that morning he spent some time driving around looking for Ezra and I, which I don't know if he was looking for us or what. Like he knew where we were, but he went to my old employer. He went to my friend's house and he sat outside of the house that we shared together for a little while. I don't know if it was just him reminiscing or what. But shortly after he left the home that we lived in together, he um, went around a turn too quickly in the snow and he drove a tiny little car. And so he ended up like kind of sideways in a ditch. Um, and then there was another car too, like a minivan. And I was told there was like a family in that minivan that also slid out with him. And so they ended up like banked in the snow together. And apparently, Eric got out of the car and was like his normal kind of bubbly, charismatic, charming, personable self, and was talking with the dad and said like, "Oh, look at us, like a couple of buffoons, like both overdid it in the snow." And the guy told him like, "Yep, I've already called a tow truck, and like they should be here shortly." And Eric said, "Oh, well, you've got your whole like family here. It's just me in the car back there. So, you go ahead and be helped first. I'm not in any timeline here." Um, and then he went back to his vehicle and locked the doors and shot himself. So that was, I don't know. I mean, for a while after it happened, I got all these little like pieces and parts of like kind of like setting the scene, putting myself in his shoes, trying to understand like how or why, like what made that moment the time, what made this plan come together in his mind. And I think after like so many years of reflection, it's just um, it's impossible to just imagine. I was in a grief group for a long time after his passing, and it was all for people that had lost loved ones to suicide. And something that a few of us, not all of us, but a few of us had been left letters from our loved ones. And so that was something that Eric did. He laid out a birthday card for Ezra because it was the week of Ezra's third birthday. And he left a letter for me next to him too. And there's kind of like a common theme, I guess, between myself and some of the people that I had connected with in that grief group of just like almost like their loved ones get to like a state of euphoria towards the end, especially like someone that has been like tormented and just been felt heavy for so long. Once they kind of make peace with, I don't have to deal with this anymore. Like I know what I'm going to do. They kind of get to a euphoric state. So yeah, his letter was really just gentle and sweet. I was nervous at first whenever I was talking with a police officer that he, I don't know, like in my head, it just seemed like such a violent action that I was thinking that there was going to be like a lot of like anger and rage and like he was tormented and didn't know what to do. And um, I thought maybe the letter would just be like really painful to read in that sense, but instead it was more painful to read because it was just like so gentle and loving and sweet, and his tone seemed very just like calm and at peace. Um, so yeah, I don't know. He wished Ezra and I all good things and said that, ultimately he'd spent a lot of time thinking about it and he just did not feel like there was any opportunity for him to change his path or like the things that had happened in life. And he felt like he was done and ready to just be at peace with everything. So yeah, I don't know.
Logan, what would you say? And you obviously have had some experience with community, other people that had experienced things like yourself, similar situations with suicide. I mean, um, what advice would you give to someone that might be going through something similar and listening to your story now? That's one thing, and also then if there's anyone that might be in a similar space to Eric, um, is there any advice or words that you would say to someone like that that may be listening?
This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a similar position, contemplating taking your life, I would just say, no matter how awful you feel right now, like everything in life is truly temporary. That everything goes in seasons. Today might be the worst day ever, and tomorrow could be the best. And if you leave, you never know. And I think, I don't know, I think a lot of times when we're so overcome with emotion, we forget, all of the people that love us and that we've impacted over the course of our life. And so sometimes it's easy to tell yourself a narrative of like, well, I've made everyone mad. No one will miss me. Like, we're all human and our feelings are temporary. And even if you greatly upset someone today, they still love you true and true and would miss you forever. So yeah, I mean, I would just say that, trying to remind yourself in those moments or have like a safety line that can remind you like you're so valuable. And yeah, just don't forget that. I think after Eric passed, it's interesting because he was, physically, he was like a very strong, intimidating type of person. He was 6'5" and, just macho army dude. And so physically he was strength, but also mentally and emotionally, I had known the strength and all of the things that he persevered through in life. And so really, I think after he passed, I realized like he was the strongest person that I knew. And he was able to do that. And so something strange happens. I think whenever you lose someone to suicide, it kind of creates that manner of passing. It makes it like an option in your brain. You kind of start thinking about it too. Um, and so for, several years after Eric's passing, I was in a really, really dark place where I was contemplating doing the same. And something that I would do that who knows if this is the healthiest choice, but I would sometimes sit down and write letters to my loved ones and imagine what I would say to them. And every single time I just the love that I had for so many people and that I knew they had for me, that was enough to remind myself like I can't, pass my pain on to someone else. I need to be strong or be vulnerable. Strong is maybe not the right word. Be vulnerable and open to receiving the help that I needed to be able to change and get to a healthier space so that I could be the best version of myself for all of my loved ones. Yeah, and it sounds a lot simpler than it is. I know it's one of the most impossible things that we do. The other question that you asked me was someone that's lost someone to
Yeah, someone in a
suicide.
similar position to you, and it probably really flows on from your comment then around, writing the letters and what other help you got, obviously with the groups. How did you cope? I guess is really the underlying question, and how might other people cope with losing a loved one to suicide?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you've just lost someone to suicide, there is no like handbook of any sort. But rule number one, just like be gentle with yourself and give yourself the most grace. Grief is so strange and presents itself in some very odd ways sometimes. And so, however your grief is leading you, like whatever makes you feel like you're going to feel better, then I say do it. There's again just a season for everything. It's not something that I have genuinely ever talked about, but I after Eric passed, it just, I think goes to show like just the weird mind space that I was in, my little grief bubble. But I would go to some of his favorite restaurants and I would order like his exact meal, even if it was something that like I didn't necessarily like, or I mean, he was a giant human and I'm like half his size. So if that just goes to show like how much he ate in a sitting. But I would sit down with his favorite meal and I would just make myself eat every single bite of it. I and it was just something that my brain had like convinced myself like I need to do this to feel close to this person still or to understand something about them. Um, yeah, our brains are so interesting. But yeah, and I think another thing too is grief, even if it's I don't know, I say like my loved one, so many people loved him and lost him too. And they'll all grieve differently and expect you to grieve a certain way, possibly too. I know that's not always the case. Some families have like just really connected support systems through loss like that. I didn't immediately after his passing. I think it really rocked so much of our community, and I lost a lot of connections. And I don't know if that was through like me isolating because I didn't feel like other people understood how I was feeling, or um, I don't know. It makes you really sensitive to a lot of things. Like I remember shortly after Eric passed, I had went to get like lunch with a girlfriend, and she was just like venting to me about how messy her husband was and how she just hated cleaning up after after him, and like all these things. And I just remember leaving like feeling so like irritated with her because at that time it was just like what I wouldn't give to just like have to do his stinky, dirty, nasty laundry one more time. Um, so I don't know. I mean, it is hard. I wish that I had, I guess, more of a like wider lens at the time to be able to let more of the people that are closest to me in. But I mostly felt just like misunderstood. And so I felt more support from strangers, but strangers that had lost someone in the same manner. Like I mentioned, the support group earlier, I went to the support group twice a week for 2 hours. And then basically every other day of the week, I was doing something one on one with connections that I had made. Through that support group, they really became like my entire support system for, I would say, that first year, maybe first 2 years. Um, but yeah, I mean, there was just so many similarities between like our loved ones that we'd lost, and we'd lived such similar like life experiences leading up to them passing, that it just felt like that was a connection that like a lot of other people potentially couldn't understand. And so something that I guess I would recommend too is there are, specifically for widows, there are some Facebook groups that I also joined. I'm still a part of, and those are really great virtual supports just to be able to post like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Because sometimes, I don't know, I would like say something even to my best friend who like knows me through and through. Like I would say something to her, and I feel like she would instantly be like, Logan, that's weird. but but you post it in these little Facebook groups where like everyone has lived the same experience, and immediately there's like 50 other people that are like, oh my gosh, I did the same thing yesterday, like I totally get that.
Yeah.
And so that provided a lot of like support and validation, I think, during that time.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of technology, and the other side of being online is that you have so many resources to be able to lean on, and communities and people that are going through exactly what you're going through or have gone through in the past. So that totally makes sense, that sense of connection. I have to ask, what was that meal that you forced yourself to eat?
Not even anything good.
That's okay.
Okay, so one of them, I don't even know. Do you guys have Applebee's there?
No, we don't, but I have been.
No,
I've been to
you've been
Applebee's.
to
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Okay. Okay, so this is it's terrible. But so Applebee's, if you like go to the very last menu, you can choose like two full-size entrees for this like price of it's like a deal, right? And he was a big fan. So it was always it's like 4 cheese mac and cheese with sweet honey tenders on top. And then he would also get this like spicy Mexican chicken bake, which the two do not go together at all. But yeah, so that was the big whole whopping meal. And if you can imagine me just like picking that up and sitting in my car, and oh, man, just setting the scene too. I would like play his favorite songs, and I would just be going ham, like tears streaming down my face. It's such an interesting thing. But one of the times that I felt like very seen through a TV show is Gosh, there's that show with, is it Christina Applegate? It's I can't think of what it's called, but her husband has just passed. And it's like a murder mystery type, but also kind of funny. It's on Netflix. Ah, it'll bug me that I can't think of the
Oh,
name
I
of
don't
it,
think I've
but
seen it. Yeah.
it's it's funny and I mean it impacts you, but it's also very funny because you're going through this like unexpected grief journey with her. And she's just like hilarious.
Dead to Me.
But Dead to Me. Yes,
Okay.
that's what it's called. Yes. But there's this thing that she does. She like collects all of his, he had like a music studio and he has all of these like half drank beverages just like left out. And she like collects them and she puts her hands on the cups and you can see like his little lip line and she puts her lip and she'll take like a little sip of water. And it's I just remember watching that around the same time and feeling like, okay, so I'm not crazy. Like this is
Yeah.
this is a thing that people do, like just to feel close to their person still. And I think that can come in a multitude of ways. I still to this day, I had gone through his like dirty laundry hamper and folded up shirts of his and put them in little Ziplocs. And a couple of years ago, we moved, and my sister was like helping me pack things up, and she was like, "Oh, what is this collection of shirts and bags?" And I told her I was like, "Oh, like that's what was like Eric's dirty laundry, whatever he passed," and I just couldn't bring myself to like wash it or donate it or anything like that. And I remember she asked like, "Oh, does it actually smell like him?" And together we just like unzipped the bag and almost instantly, and I wasn't like expecting it or in a place for it, but just like instantly I had just like tears just spray out of my eyes in every which direction because it is like so just nostalgic. Some of these things like just take you right back to a time in life that you can't ever go back to. So
Yeah.
yeah.
On that theme, is there anything that you do today to remember Eric? And obviously you've got one of the best reminders there in Ezra.
And
But
Ezra.
is there anything that you do, together that to help remember him?
Yeah, we so a couple things. We chose to have Eric cremated because he always wanted to be a world traveler. So every time we go on a trip, we take a tiny little part of him and set him free somewhere that I think he would find wonderfully cool. Um, but we also like got a headstone for him in a military cemetery as well because I thought that would also be something that he liked. So we have like a physical place. I also thought it would probably make more sense for Ezra. Like at the time he was 3. Um, so we frequently will go and visit him there. And I mean, for the longest time, like Ezra would bring like Matchbox cars. We would always go and he would pick one for him and one for daddy, and we would leave one on the headstone. Um, yeah, and I have lots of little videos of Ezra like literally making the cars jump off the headstones, like all of that stuff. He's just like playing with daddy. Um, yeah, I mean, we celebrate, the day that he passed. We always do something special in his honor and have, conversations about him. And then
That was
we,
the
of course,
11th of Feb, right? You said?
yes, 11th of
Yeah.
February. Yeah.
That's Dad's birthday, which is what this
Oh, wow.
podcast is on. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it
That is a
stuck
wild
out. Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a wild connection. Um, yeah, so I mean on his birthday too, we always do something to celebrate him and I'm very fortunate. I'm partnered again. I'm
Mm,
engaged.
yeah.
Um and I'm very fortunate that my fiance, participates in all of these things and he holds a lot of space for Eric in our relationship and our family still. Um, obviously those were questions or conversations that I had with him whenever we first, started dating. That was like, this is always going to be a huge part of our life, and I need to know that you're going to be okay with that and be loving and accepting of all of that too. And so, um, I think that's nice that we can literally like sit around and watch goofy videos of Eric dancing and doing silly things all together and like and laugh and talk about him. I think extra sweet for Ezra, especially
Mm.
that we keep all of Eric's memories alive, and that he has, I don't know, he's got like a wonderful dad now that also is
Still
constantly
has a
highlighting.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Before, I guess aside from the battles and the mental health side of things, for Eric, how you described him in the physical, probably a stereotypical military strong, buff dude. I'm imagining. Um,
Yeah.
what about him? How would you describe him to a stranger? Personality wise, what type of person he was, what type of dad he was.
Yeah, I always called him a chameleon because he was one of those people that you could put him in any pocket of people and he would immediately adapt to them, like just instantly be someone's best friend. Um, so he had a lot of different faces that he wore, and I think that was also kind of like a learned personality trait, probably through the foster care upbringing, because he would just get placed into a new family and he'd be like, okay, how can I become one with this environment? Um, but seeing him like out and about socializing, I mean, no one was a stranger to him. Just, he was loud and he laughed so loud and he was so animated and he loved to dance. Whenever we first met each other, he was stationed in Hawaii and I was also stationed there because my dad is in the service. Um, and he had this country bar that he like taught dance lessons there, but he also just like went every night to dance. And he was just this like, I don't know, so like freakishly tall, gangly giant, but he would just like come to life, like yeah, come to life dancing. That was like his favorite thing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was a very good dad whenever he was fully present. He from the time that he and I met, he told me like I've always wanted to have a family. I've always wanted to be a father. And I think it really was for him, like he'd never had this thing, and it was such a like goal of his to have such a different life and all of that than what he started with. And so he very quickly and adamantly was like, let's have a baby. And so um, yeah, I think his like perspective and a lot of things shifted and changed whenever he had Ezra. Um, and he was very sweet and gentle with him. They also shared like a love of dancing, especially whenever Ezra was a toddler. They would always go like put a YouTube video on of a song slash dance number, and they would be in the living room just like dancing all over the place together. Um, but it was, I think, challenging because there was a lot of like inconsistencies or just struggles with his overall day-to-day life. So he wasn't there as much as I'm sure he would have hoped. He took a lot of time and space away. Even after he got out of the service, he worked for the military, and so he was traveling a lot, and he would kind of be home for these little like blips of time. But it was really nice to see his bond with Ezra. I often think like I just wonder like what he and Ezra's like dynamic in their relationship would be like today, because Ezra is like so much like him. Like even though he for most of his life has been raised by just me, um he's like Eric. So, I mean the facial expressions he makes, like he'll say, I don't know, we'll just be like walking down the sidewalk and he'll like trip over his own feet, and it's like something just so Eric. I mean, for someone that had been like so tall his whole entire life, like he would just walk in somewhere and like not duck, just not like not aware of his surroundings at all. And Ezra is like the same way. He's a giant compared to his peers, and he's quite like a baby giraffe and just reminds me of Eric all throughout the day. So um
It's interesting. We hear that quite a bit from Mostly mothers where they have young children and whatever reason, the father has passed and, they might be babies, but they're starting to see those traits and personalities and things come through, which, yeah, obviously the father hasn't been around, but so it's just interesting that
Yeah.
that the common thing that happens.
Yeah.
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message: be remembered.
Yeah, I know. It is the nature versus nurture thing. It's
Yeah,
like, wow,
yeah,
that's that's wild.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite story or memory or one that sticks out? Probably two. I think for you and Eric as a couple, and then maybe if there was one as a family.
Yeah. Gosh, for us as a couple, I don't know. I'm thinking of like it's not even like a big story, but it's just like something that's
They're
so
sometimes the
funny that's
best.
coming to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we were in Hawaii, there's this like chain restaurant there called Zippy's, and it's just kind of like a local cheap breakfast plate type place. Um, and we were there one morning, and he'd gotten like I don't even know what it was. I think he'd gotten like a bowl of plain white rice and then like a whole entire thing of like sausage links or something like that. His diet and the things that he was willing to eat was strange. But he asked whenever they like brought it over, he's like, "Oh, thank you so much. And could I also have some wasabis?" And the gal looked at him and she was like, "Wasabis?" And he's like, "Yeah, I love that stuff. Like so much, like a big bowl of wasabis." And I was looking at him too, like, what does he mean right now? And so sure enough, she comes over with wasabi, like scooped like ice cream, giant things of like of
Yeah.
wasabi in a bowl. And he looks at her and he's like, "Oh, I hate that stuff." and, I was like, "Wait, what are we talking about here?" He was talking about it's called musubis, a spam musubi. It's like rice with spam wrapped in seaweed. Usually they
Oh,
like teriyaki.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
It's like a very like local like Hawaiian snack,
Yes,
but
I
he just
have.
gotten
Yeah,
like
I haven't been, but I can picture what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah,
So
he
they're
just
called Musubis,
musubis.
and
Yeah,
he
they're
was
called
calling it
spam
wasabi.
musubis. He was calling it wasabi. So she definitely brought, but I didn't even know. Like I was shocked. You know, wasabi like comes
Yeah,
with like
yeah. For
sushi. The
sushi, it's only a
you
little. You
it,
only have the tiniest
tiny
bit. Yeah.
tiniest bit. Yeah, she came with like ice cream scoops of wasabi. I didn't even know you could do that. I was like,
I'm just
I was
imagining her
shocked.
emptying out these little packets.
Yeah, right. I
Yeah.
know. I was like, how did you even get that much wasabi? But yeah, I don't know. That one cracked me up. He was just yeah, always a goof, making everyone laugh around him. Um, and then I guess a sweet story of us together. Um, Whenever he was in so after he got out of the service and he still worked for the military, he would do something called like TDY. So he would go for like a couple weeks and stay in Alaska or different states. And one of those trips, it was Alaska, but he was there for several months. And Ezra and I got to go and visit him, and it was kind of like one of his first big adventures that um, he was getting to go to or that he was on without us since we've been together. And so he kind of like made a little community of friends there and like knew his way around and um, kept telling me like, "Oh, you just wait until you see the Northern Lights." Like he just loved it there. So we got there and he spent, I think we spent like a long weekend with him, but he showed us around some of his favorite places. And I guess one of my favorite memories or feelings moments with all of us was just little Ezra and me seeing the Northern Lights with him for the first time. And also just like looking at Eric's face and he was like, this never gets old. It's magical. Like the lights are dancing in the sky. And it was just like a very, very sweet, touching thing. I actually have a tattoo on my arm that's dedicated to him. And it's a diamond, but it's like split into triangles, and one of them is like a beach scene from his favorite beach in Hawaii, and then the other is the Northern Lights. And I feel like those two places kind of represented him a little bit because part of his personality was, very bright and sunny and happy. And then the other part was very um, moody and mysterious and um, all of that. So, yeah, I
It's
think those
very
are
cool. That's a
those.
cool concept, and I can, yeah, I guess it's difficult to describe, but equally, I can understand where the concept behind it. It's really nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess what are the one of the questions that I had was, what are the lessons that you've learned, from Eric, either whilst he was still living, but also post him passing, what lessons have you learned in grief lessons, I guess.
I guess lessons that I learned from him while he was still living. I don't know. I think a lot of little things, like strange little things. I think because he was always kind of left to his own devices to like find food or create meals or random things like that, he had like a funny knack of like going into the pantry or the fridge, and like anyone else would be like, oh, there's nothing to eat here, like we can't make anything, and he would be like, oh, well, you can like combine those things. And I don't know, sometimes it would just be like weird things, but usually it was good. And so I feel like I kind of have that mentality now. Like there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, we have like nothing to eat, and then I'm like, wait a second, and I look in the pantry, I'm like, we could make something here.
Yeah, that's cool.
um
A lot of
yeah,
people
and
rely
then
on, AI or the internet to say, here's, what I've got, tell me what to have. But it's cool
tell
that you
me
have
what to
that.
do.
Yeah. You've got that
Yeah.
lesson, I guess, or that learning from Eric to, you can work it out yourself.
Yeah, precisely. And I think like on that same trend, there's like a lot to that I've kind of taken away. Like a lot of things in his life he had to learn himself. And so he had like very interesting ways of doing things. Um, and I think I came from a very different background where, my mom and dad were together, and I had a very like charmed type upbringing in comparison to his. And so um, a lot of things were done for me, or like I was taught how to do, or something like that. And so as an adult, obviously, whenever I lost him, I was like a young, I was 22, about to turn 23. So there was a lot of life experiences that I still hadn't had, and a lot of the things, even in our marriage, like he did, like tire rotations and getting oil changes and like just things like that, or just like paying certain bills or negotiating over things, or um, and so I would find myself a lot like nervous about having to do one of these things by myself, and I would kind of like channel my inner Eric of like, well, he would just pick up a phone and he would tell people, hey, this is my first time, can you help me? Like what, and so I feel like a lot of the way that I like lead life even still and make choices are inspired by some of those like interactions with him, because he just, yeah, he had a very gentle way of just like approaching anything new and not getting discouraged or overwhelmed or like nervous about something. He would just be like, well, I drove my car until the tires were nuts. Like I didn't know I was supposed to get the tires rotated. Like he would just yeah, he was just very, I don't know, organic in that sense, I guess. And so I've adopted that for sure
Yeah.
in my
Logan,
in my DNA.
do you think that's a conscious thing, or is that something that you just have, again, just learned from, being with Eric and being partnered and being married to him, that you saw him doing those things? I mean, is it a, what would Eric do moment where you have to stop yourself and think about it, or is it more just something that you picked up from how he was raised and what he taught himself?
I think initially after he passed, I think I had a lot of what would Eric do moments where I would stop and like kind of go back and forth and decide, which is the right move here and try to like channel his voice.
Yeah.
More so now, I think it's a lot of just like things that I picked up from our time together, but I will have those like moments of recognition where like, if I've been really nervous about making a call and I finally do it, I kind of have that little like piece of like, I don't know, his voice or something in the back of my head, like, see, told you could do it.
Yeah,
Like that wasn't that
yeah,
scary, was it?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. I was just interested to see whether it is a conscious thing. Just hearing you talk about it certainly does seem like it's something that you're just doing now, subconsciously. So it's really cool to
Yeah.
hear. One final question for you, Logan, for the main part of the podcast. Often our most difficult one, so be kind and easy with yourself in answering this. If Eric was in front of you today, I know it's coming up to the 6-year mark. What would you say to him?
That is a big one. Gosh. Yeah, I don't know. That is a hard one. I don't know. I think I would want to make sure that I would want to know like how he's doing, make sure that he like it feels at peace and just yeah, I'd love to hear him just like in his words describe what it feels like to like not have the weight of anything anymore because I know that that's like that was a big thing for him. Um and I think I don't know, I was talking with someone about this the other day. It's kind of a challenging topic, but I do have a really beautiful life today that I love and I'm so thankful for. And so I think um, in some sort of way, I would have to express a lot of gratitude and give him a lot of thanks because I mean, part of even just that letter that he left whenever he made this choice was just like, telling us, telling me and Ezra that, he wanted all of the best things for us. And he felt like as long as he was here, he was going to hinder that. And he wanted to see us, go on and live the most beautiful life and have all of the things we ever wanted. And in a familial sense, our day-to-day life, it might not be like the most exciting thing ever, but I have, we have a safe and healthy home. I have a wonderful, loving partner that is always kind and gentle, and he's wonderful with Ezra. And we have our new little baby Emery that is just such a joy. So I feel like I have a lot of like gratitude and thanks that I would have to express to Eric for, I guess, opening that is just a possibility for us. It's yeah, I feel like there's always like guilt whenever I talk about how thankful I am for everything I have today because I know that I only have everything I have because we lost him, and it's not a fair trade. But yeah, I think that's yeah.
Thank you for answering that. I know it's a difficult one, and from a complete stranger, I certainly think that yeah, you don't have to feel that sort of guilt. I think, and obviously not seeing the letter, but how the way you've described it is, it sounds like this is the life that Eric would have wished for you. So, anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth there. Thank you so much. Grateful and honoured having you on the podcast. It was obviously tragic hearing about Eric, but thank you for sharing. I'm sure it would have helped someone, and it was wonderful hearing about the stories and memories that you guys shared as well. But sometimes funny and comical ones, but remembering it as a person as well was beautiful. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me space to talk about him. That was very nice.
Thanks, Logan.
Of course.
So that was Logan from Washington State in the United States. What an amazing strong person. She is quite, my perception was quite gentle in nature, but also a very strong person, given everything that she's been through and how she carries herself and the lessons she's learned, and obviously the way she's created a beautiful family. And by the sounds of it, Ezra's doing really well as well. So it was obviously tragic hearing about Eric and the story and the battles that he went through. But equally also, I think it certainly would help others out there, whether that's someone going through a similar battle or headspace or whatever they're in. Hearing that story and how Logan spoke about the impact that you will have on people that do want you around. And also her journey and connecting with community and often strangers that had helped her through that grief process. So and continued grief journey as well, with what she does on her platform. So in that vein, if you did find this conversation meaningful and worthwhile, please share that with any friends, family, colleagues that might need to hear it, and also any of our past episodes as well. That'd be most appreciated. Jump on your preferred listening platform and give us a rating and review, so we do show up on any platforms that people are searching for any sort of grief conversations, and 5 stars ideally. That would be really nice and wonderful if you could do that. A reminder that we have the partnership with BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/remembering them podcast, 10% off your first month's subscription with them if you would need to speak to a credentialed therapist. We do have that wonderful partnership. We also have the My Legacy Message service, which you would have heard during the episode, mylegacymessage.com.au, where you can leave a video message to your loved one as often as a surprise after they've passed. And I'm sure that Logan would love to have, if she doesn't already, but some personalized direct video messages from Eric, especially directly to Ezra, I'm sure would be amazing, and obviously to herself. So that's a service available. And another supporter of the podcast. Speaking of supporting the podcast, please jump on our Patreon, patreon.com/remembering them podcast, and support us on there. Also have access to our exclusive chat with all of our guests. So we had a really wonderful chat with Logan, post the main recording, around how her and Eric met, how her and Garrick met, how the family is now, and that little, we spoke a little bit more about the children there. So access to those exclusive chats, but also our other streams in the new year that we're releasing free to Patreon. So jump on Patreon. You don't necessarily have to subscribe. We have a lot of free content on there as well, or we plan to in 2025, but also the paid version. And it's also a way to support the podcast as well. $6 a month US, $9 a month Australian. And last but not least, follow us on all of our socials, Instagram being the main one, Facebook, Twitter, not Twitter, sorry, we're not on there. I meant to say TikTok and YouTube. Please follow us on all of our socials. That would be much appreciated. Thank you very much for your listenership. I hope Luke and Ryan have enjoyed what today is the Dewey Decimal System Day, and they're having fun in the library. Looking forward to having them on the next podcast, and looking forward to speaking to our next guest. Thank you very much for joining me. Love you all. Until next time. Bye.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.